Let's say thanks to Linda for suggesting this wonderful song to open with. I woke up this morning with my mind stayed on spirit. Woke up this morning with my mind stayed on spirit. Woke up this morning with my mind stayed on spirit. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Oh, I woke up this morning with my mind stayed on spirit. Woke up this morning with my mind stayed on spirit. Woke up this morning with my mind stayed on spirit. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Walking and talking with my mind stayed on spirit. Walking and talking with my mind. Look at stayed on spirit. Walking and talking with my mind stayed on spirit. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Dancing and singing with my mind stayed on spirit. Dancing and singing with my mind stayed on spirit. Dancing and singing with my mind stayed on spirit. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Let's sing it together. Oh, I woke up this morning with my mind stayed on spirit. Woke up this morning with my mind stayed on spirit. I woke up this morning with my mind stayed on spirit. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Now that's how we start the service. Yeah. Good morning, everybody. Hey, Mom.
Thank you. Wow. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Well, I'll move this up. Welcome to Unity of Chattanooga Sunday Celebration Services. My name is Mona Petro, and I serve as your president of the Board of Trustees. And I would like to thank Landis for giving us a song in our hearts, and to Reverend Doug, who's going to share inspiration for our souls. We also want to give a shout out to you if you're on Facebook. So give us a thumbs up and let us know that you're here, and say hello to your other people on Facebook. Okay? If you know someone who would benefit from Unity's message, we invite you to share our services with them. We present a positive message of hope and spiritual concepts that can change any lives for the better. Unity of Chattanooga is an inclusive spiritual community dedicated to teaching a powerful, positive message that supports each person's unique path to understanding the power and presence of God that is active in our lives and in the world. Our teachings are designated to promote tools to learn and practice the love, prosperity, and peace teachings of Christ to all of the great ancient and modern day mystics who have come to enlighten humankind. As most of you know, we entered the season of Advent, which is a time of great anticipation as it asks us to recognize that there is something greater just around the corner. It brings with it an invitation for us to be more Christ-like in the world as we celebrate together. The gladness of Advent, which is hope, the spirit of Advent, which is peace, the heart of Advent, which is love, and the inspiration of Advent that opens us to experience the joys in our lives. I now invite Reverend Doug to come up by lighting our Advent candle. Thank you. Thank you.
Perfect. Well, most of you know that Unity was founded on prayer and meditation. And so this morning, we want to start our service with prayer. And as we do, we light the Christ candle. And that candle symbolizes the light that is within us all. The greater light that God is and is always in our life. So let's take a few moments now and just go to that quiet and still place within. That place where God is and where God always has been. And as we open our hearts, as we open our minds, there is a feeling of guidance, of healing, and an assurance that all things are truly well. As we go forward in the beginning of this Christmas season, our hearts are naturally opened to giving and to receiving, to the greater spiritual concepts in our life. And so we take a moment right now and simply invite in that presence and power once again. Feel it flowing through our bodies. From the tops of our heads down through our shoulders, through our hips and our legs, and down deep into Mother Earth. And that earth energy supports our life, heals and invigorates all the energy flowing through us. It flows back up through our body and out through that crown chakra to the presence of God. So we give thanks and simply know once again, God is here and all is truly well. So it is.
I need you. You need me. We're all a part of God's body. Stand with me. Agree with me. We're all a part of God's body. It is God's will that every need be supplied. You are important to me. I need you to survive. You are important to me. I need you to survive.
Usually at this time of the service, I pick up the microphone and go out into the audience and ask if anyone has any prayers. But this morning is a little different. We have a special guest this morning and a special message. One of not only hope, but one of healing. Gino, would you care to join me? I think this one is working.
Hello? Yes.
Oh, yeah. So Gino, let's turn the clock back a little bit, maybe 6 months or so, and tell me what the doctor said and what happened.
Okay, so the short version is about 6 months ago, March, April, I was experiencing some extreme symptoms, swallowing, rapid weight loss, excuse me, without trying, and seems like I was always trying to be on a diet, but I was losing about 1 pound to 2 pounds a week, every week. It's like, wow, I'm looking really good, but I'm not hungry. I can't eat anything. Fast forward into the summer, and I decided, I need to just get this checked out. I'm having a tough time swallowing, and then I got COVID in August, and everything kept getting delayed for my tests, upper and lower GI tests. And when I finally did get it done in September, the doctors, who were pretty nonchalant about everything up until that point, put me in for the colonoscopy, the endoscopy, all of that stuff. And I was diagnosed with stage 4 esophageal cancer. And stage 4 because it had spread, the imaging showed that it had spread into my lymph nodes.
And stage 4 is, there's no stage 5.
Well, the stage 5 is goodbye.
Yeah.
The stage 4 is get ready for goodbye if we can't maintain it. So the regiment for the doctors at that point was to immediately, within a day, start daily radiation for 6 weeks and weekly chemo. At that point, not only shocked, but surprised and a little bit concerned. And I hadn't lived long enough to right all the wrongs I did in my life. It's just like, oh God, please give me enough time to at least become a good person, a better person. So at Mona's request, and I'm Mona's husband, she thought I should share this with my Unity family, which I was reticent about. I didn't want to share it with anybody. As a matter of fact, I have a lot of friends on Facebook. Most of them don't know. I don't post these things personally usually, but 10 of my closest friends, people I work with, and of course my family here. So at that point, Doug had gotten involved with me and concerned and started prayer. So I began a regimen in September, the end of September, beginning of October, of radiation, chemotherapy, and prayer.
What was the doctor's diagnosis? In other words, you go through the radiation, you go through the chemo, and then what were they going to do?
Okay, so immediately, if the radiation and chemo took, that would give them the green light to do a radical surgery of taking my esophagus out, half of my stomach, and meshing it with my throat. And that's what the whole thing was, to get to that outcome, which I never wanted to do that. I just did the chemo and the therapy, and I have spiritual thing going, no.
But that was the doctor's expectation.
We have to go to, because this is not going to get clear. You're not going to clear it out of your lymph nodes. It's not going to get cleared at this point. We need to stop it and localize it and then cut all around it to get rid of it. That's the solution for the cure. Because imaging is not microscopic. Microscopic then they could still be living. The analogy, not to take up too much time, is the imaging of an MRI or a PET scan, when I've had them both, and endoscopy is you're at 10,000 feet in an airplane, you're looking down, you can see the rooftops, and you can see the cars and the trees, but you can't see the little mouse running underneath the house. And the type that I have is such small cell cancer that it's the tiny mouse running under the house. But the imaging shows where it is. So the end result is they were very adamant about me having this surgery. So I finally finished the chemo. I started the radiation, the first day of radiation and chemo. Penny had given me this from Unity. that I had with me on every treatment, which is a prayer. And my friend Eric Miller had given me an affirmation prayer from Reverend Justin Epstein in Unity of New York City. Is I am young, I am strong, I'm healthy, my body knows it, my body shows it. And between the prayer affirmation, the prayer this is being channeled in from Doug, which I knew was going on, and what I've read a little bit, and Doug talked about with Myrtle Fillmore, whenever, in radiation is you lay down in a tube, and they have markers on me for weeks. All these X's where they shoot the radiation. You know, so when you hit with prayer, you don't know it. But when you're laying in a radiation machine, you know you're getting ready. Even though you don't feel it, you know you're getting hit with it. So when they say, okay, we're starting, as they were hitting me with my radiations, and I know this sounds a little bit out there, I'm replacing that radiation and adding on to it with the prayer that I know that's been channeled to me. And I will tell you right now, I do not identify as a Christian. Okay, I come to Unity for a lot of different reasons, and I think I'm broader than that, than just Christianity. So I'm not like prayer, God bless you, pass out the brochure. And my wife brought me here, and I followed her. But I do believe in the power of prayer, and I'm taking up too much time. But so I replace this mantra with the exercise from the top of my head, and as the things going around me, shooting me, and I can hear the different zzz going around, I'm saying the mantra, and I'm replacing the radiation. I'm replacing whatever the radiation is shooting with positive affirmation. So then what happens is then I finished. And after I finished, I felt terrible. My esophagus had shrunk to the point after the radiation, and to the point of a nickel, that I can't get anything down except liquid. If I ever ate with any of you ever seen me here, you have to get up and go to the bathroom, eat teeny little bites. Up until about a week ago, it started to feel a little bit better. And I think, okay, maybe we'll set you in for another PET scan to see what the surgery is. And I'm against the surgery. So they go in for my PET scan, and I meet the surgeon the next day, Mona and I, and they're like, this is remarkable. There's nothing in your lymph nodes. Your lymph nodes are
Gone.
disease-free. Not only that, the tumors have shrunk so significantly that I can swallow normally. I still can't eat real hard. I tried to eat a steak the other day. I was a vegetarian. I lost so much weight. I had to, like, after 15 years being a vegetarian, I started eating something. So I started eating everything. And then, so gone out of the lymph nodes. The tumor that's obstructing my esophagus is now normal size, and there are a few other little spots that I'm going in on the 16th for the biopsies. The first step is, okay, now what about that surgery? Well, the surgery we can think about saying we're going to stop the surgery. We're not doing the surgery. We're going to do whatever it is. If this means starting all over again and getting it again, I'll visit that later. But for right now, I'm on a healing path. And Mona's like, at the doctor, what about spiritual? Spiritual too. You know, it's not just this. And she's like, yes, I agree. That plays a part. Well, for me, that is the part. So right now, and last night we went to a Christmas party. We've been going to different functions. I'm able to eat the dinners. We had a chicken dinner last night. I was able to eat the whole chicken without gagging, which sounds, and I've learned to eat much smaller portions, chew 1,000 times before I swallow. And I hopefully keep my weight right where it is. They want me to gain weight, but I'm kind of ideal where I want to be. So I was so fat before, but anyway.
Okay.
That's my story, and I got to tell you, doubting Thomas, I would not come up here and volunteer. Doug asked me to do this. These are things I keep to myself. But I wouldn't, if I didn't truly believe this, it would not be coming from these lips. If anybody that knows me, I'm not going to sign on to something that I'm not on board with. So, thank you.
Hey, buddy. Thanks for sharing.
So December the 16th is the next benchmark, and more will be revealed.
Wow. Wow. Well, that's how it works, folks. You know, six months ago when Gino we first talked about this, when it's in your lymph nodes and you're stage 4, and the doctors say that the best that they can hope for is taking everything out and sewing it back together again, that's pretty significant. And what we talked about, and most of you don't know this, but most of my sermons during that time were all around healing, and they were a special message. Now, I didn't say that to everybody, but that's what they were. And Gino, you took the step of taking that information and actually using it, you know. And so fear went to hope, and now is assurance and conviction. You know that it works. And so I just want to say thank you for taking that path. And I know that today you are a much different person than you were just 6 months ago. Yeah, God bless you. Do you have a special song?
I pray for you. You pray for me. I love you. I need you to survive. I won't harm you with words from my mouth.
Sing it, Dad.
I love you. I need you to survive. It is God's will that every need be supplied. You are important to me. I need you to survive. You are important to me. I need you to survive. Thank you, Gino. Wow, God bless you. Wow. Wow. It's a good thing to be at Unity of Chattanooga today. Wow. Okay. It's the holiday season. All right. Do you remember me? I sat upon your knee. I wrote to you with childhood fantasies. Well, I'm all grown up now. Can you still help somehow? I'm not a child, but my heart still can dream. So here's my lifelong wish, my grown-up Christmas list. Not for myself, but for this world in need. No more lives torn apart, that wars would never start, and time would heal all hearts. Everyone would have a friend, that right would always win, and love would never end. This is my grown-up Christmas list. What is this illusion called? The innocence of youth, maybe only in that blind belief can we ever find the truth. There hill on the hearts. Everyone would have a friend, and right would always win, and love would never end. This is my grown-up Christmas list. This is my only lifelong wish. This is my grown-up Christmas list.
That's my Christmas list too. Yeah. Well, the church has been transformed. Last week there were multicolored leaves and pumpkins, and today it's Christmas. It's a miracle. Well, actually, we need to thank Terry and Penny and Shannon and a few friends who came in early this morning and did all the transformational work. So we want to give them a big hand. Yeah. When I was just a little guy, maybe 5 or 6, and my brother was 3 or 4, that same overnight Christmas transformation took place in our house. As Christmas approached, you know, there was the talk about Santa, there was the letter to Santa every year, the TV shows on our 24-inch black and white TV, if the rabbit ears were, you know, in the right direction. But no tree, no presents, just the anticipation, the hope and the faith that on Christmas Eve, Santa would come if we'd been good. And there was always a little bit of doubt there. Santa would come and transform everything. And he did. When my brother and I got up Christmas morning, now we were under strict orders to wake up mom and dad first because it was so hard, because you know grown-ups will always sleep in if they can, right? And all of us walked into the living room and Santa had been there. There was the tree with the bulbs and the lights and the tinsel. I don't know if you remember, but they used to have this aluminum foil icicles that were hung all over the place. Oh yeah, and they were all there. You know, it was incredible. None on the floor. You know, and toys under the tree, toys all over the place, and teddy bears. I mean, big teddy bears, the kind that you could only win in the carnival, you know, if you're a good shot. Yeah, incredible. And we could play with the toys, but we couldn't open the presents until Grandpa and Grandma and Aunt Diddy got there. And that's okay, because we knew that the presents were mostly clothes anyways, right? And my Aunt Diddy was a supervisor in a local sock factory, so you know we always got socks. But that was great, because we got our socks for the year, you know, on Christmas time. And as we got older, we helped Santa by going out and getting the tree and putting it up a few weeks ahead of time, and so Santa didn't have so much work to do, you know, on Christmas Eve night. And long about that time, we about started getting the idea, you know, that maybe something was a little different. But that was great, because presents would start to show up early, you know, things would start coming under the tree. And my brother, bless his soul, always counted them. He knew which ones were for who, and especially which ones were for him. And if on Christmas morning Santa happened to have forget that one present up in the attic, back by the chimney, behind the trunk, he'd let Mom and Dad know so they could go get it. But one thing never changed. We always knew that Santa would come on Christmas Eve and bring so much more. And he always did. Now, I've shared with you on several occasions that in my early years, our family was not what you would call affluent. We didn't have a lot in the way of the better material things in life. And I learned much later that my parents apparently didn't have medical insurance when my brother needed an operation very early in life to save his life. And so that was kind of the reason that we had, the old car and the rundown house and that sort of thing. But how Santa did it in those early years, in those few hours in the morning, I'll never know. It was a miracle for me. The transformation that occurred on Christmas morning for me is, I suppose that it laid the groundwork for a lifelong belief in miracles and that good things could happen if you did the best that you knew how to do. And I think it solidified in me a feeling of hope. I mean, after all, it's the feeling of hope that surged through you as a kid for weeks ahead of Christmas. And that hope merged with faith because you always knew that something great was going to happen. You'd seen it happen before. You didn't know exactly what was going to happen or how it was going to happen, but you knew it was going to happen and it was going to be great. And I think it laid the foundation for me when much later I heard the words of the Apostle Paul, who said simply, faith is the assurance of things hoped for, the conviction of things not seen. As I grew up and attended Sunday school, I learned about Christmas being about the day that Jesus was born. See, I didn't know that when I was 4. All I knew was Santa, right? And I learned that how wise kings from the East brought gifts to honor him. And I made the connection that was what Christmas was all about, giving gifts to honor the greatness and the goodness in others. But they weren't just mere kings. They were magi from the East, wherever that was. Men who knew the inner worlds and workings of things. Good men with insight and with understanding. Men who were being guided to be at the right place at the right time, to know and to honor the workings of all these heavenly things. Just like Mary and Joseph and the shepherds in the fields were being guided, talking with angels, all working for good. Well, that must be how Santa was guided every Christmas Eve, and how he managed to get it all done. It must be a special time of year, Jesus' birth, when God and the angels are especially close. The mystery of it all when you're 4 or 5 or 6. It was a time of innocence, of simple stories and traditions that pointed the way to something greater and opened those emotional doors of kindness, of greater loving beings out there somewhere working in your behalf, and a greater source of abundance. Gifts not necessarily under the tree. Stories and traditions that, at least in my family and in my small town, everybody shared. And ever so slowly, Christmas transformed from what I was going to get to what I was going to give. From a blind faith to an understanding faith. From the assurance of things hoped for and the conviction of things not seen to something where there was a knowing what was mine to do for all this to come forth. Christmas 4 or 5 or 6. Well, when Penny and I relocated to California in the early 80s, we became involved in a local newcomers club. And when Christmas came, Penny talked me into being Santa for the kids. I still have the bruise marks on my arms here. And there had to have been about 100 of them. I mean, it was a big newcomers club. And with our daughter being about 4, we didn't think that she would catch on. I mean, with the hat and the beard and all of that. Well, when Christine sat on Santa's lap, there was this questioning look, a little bit of wonder, and a wee bit of recognition, even under that big white beard. Later, in the back of the room, with her little friends, she pointed proudly to Santa and was overheard to say, "That's my daddy!" Well, Penny was quick to come to the rescue. And as the party ended, she took a longer way home than usual to drop off something at a friend's house. But when both Penny and Christine walked into the house, I was busy putting up the tree and looked around and said, "Hey, did you have a great time? How was it visiting Santa?" That was close. So the next year, we knew we had to find a different angle, and we elicited help from the neighbors. So one night, about 2 weeks before Christmas, we were sitting down for dinner, and the doorbell rang. Well, quick as a flash, Christine is up from the table and opening the door. And there on the doorstep was a large box with an envelope on the top, but nobody in sight. She looked around. We were all puzzled. We didn't know what it was, especially Christine. So we told her to open the envelope and read it. So she opens the envelope, and it's a short note, and it says, "Dear Doug, I can't make it to the newcomers kids party this Saturday. Some last minute emergencies." And we had to help her with the word emergencies, right? "Will you help me out again? Signed, Santa." And inside the box was a full Santa suit, complete with a beard and the boots. And Christine's eyes were as big as owl's eyes. I mean, you could almost feel the wheels turning inside her head. My dad knows Santa. How cool is that? But you could see the questions beginning to form, what's going on here? Well, in those days, Christine knew that I went whitewater kayaking on the weekends during the spring and summer. So I told her that I'd met Santa a couple of times on the river. I mean, it was his vacation time. It's his off season. He likes to boat just like I do. Makes sense. We'd run a couple of rivers together. We were pals. So I was glad to help. Done deal. She bought it hook, line, and sinker. But Christine, you've got to keep the secret. Can you do that? Because if you can't, we have to find somebody else, because we don't want to spoil it for the other kids. Can you keep a secret? Christine swore to secrecy. And that Saturday, she helped out giving gifts to the other kids with the biggest smile and the biggest heart that I'd ever seen. And we have pictures of her that Christmas wearing the Santa hat and wearing the Santa coat and the big rocking chair by our tree. It was priceless. I'm not sure when she finally put the actual pieces together about Santa and Christmas, but it was a beautiful time when simpler stories for younger minds created a spirit of giving, of kindness, and of joy. And the magic of Christmas that comes from a heart filled with love and faith. The stories and feelings that Penny and I had both experienced when we were growing up, and passed on with those same feelings of faith and love. Christmas is about the hope of a better life for ourselves, our families, and our neighbors, however you define your neighbor. It's that special time of the year to practice the traditions of giving, to celebrate the beliefs in a greater good, and through faith see the best in others, regardless of their station in life. It's about family. It's about honoring and demonstrating the best in our nature and in our culture, and passing on these values to others in the next generation. Making a better world for ourselves today and for the generations to come. And hopefully planting the seeds as a way of life, regardless of the season. It's simple stories, time-honored traditions that have evolved over centuries for a way for us to remember and practice the spiritual values and a way of life demonstrated 2 millennia ago by perhaps the highest consciousness teacher ever to walk the planet. The Christmas story of Jesus' birth is the greatest story ever told about all these things. It mixes the hope and the faith of an entire people with divine guidance, with miracles and humble everyday surroundings. It's the beginning of the greatest life ever lived, a man who came to show us these values in everyday life. And it's been the inspiration for countless generations throughout the world. As we hear the story told again every year, it rekindles the feelings that God is working through each one of us to create a better world. In our unity tradition, we celebrate the birth of the Christ within each one of us. And through Jesus' example, we know that as we allow ourselves to experience that Christ presence, we're transformed through love and a greater experience of God moving in and through our lives. When I first started ministerial school, I was so excited about learning even greater spiritual truth through a more in-depth study and scholarship that I was sure to be provided and part of the experience. Well, there's an old saying that says, be careful what you ask for. And I think Rumi perhaps said it best. He said, when you eventually see through the veils of how things really are, you will keep saying again and again, this is certainly not like we thought it was. I was absolutely shocked at 50 years of age, or 52, whatever it was, that December 25th was not Jesus' real birth date. I guess, like most of us, and for most of my life, I didn't dig too deep into Bible research. I just believed the stories that were told in church and reiterated in our culture. And today we know that the actual birthday of Jesus is lost in antiquity. Nobody really knows when the actual birth date was. It's not mentioned in the Bible. And the earliest writings in the New Testament of Paul and the latest Gospels of later Gospels of Mark and John don't even mention a birth story. The birth story is only in Matthew and Luke, with very different versions, each written to a different audience at a different time, with different symbols for different audiences. And today, Bible scholars, we'll get into that a little bit next week, okay? But today, Bible scholars have placed the date of his birth in every month of the year. And my best guess is that it was in the spring, based on upon the story in Luke about the shepherds guarding their flocks at night, because that's when the lambs are born, and the shepherds have to be careful because predators will be around during that time. You know, free lunch. This is easy, right? And it's the only time of the year that the shepherds are out there at night. So that's my best guess. Historically, it seems that shortly after the persecution of the Christians ended in the 4th century, the church was growing, but struggling to get the message of Jesus' ministry out to the public at large. Most people and cultures of that time followed the natural movement of the earth and stars, and every one of them had an assortment of gods controlling those events. The Romans had Centralia, a festival dedicated to Saturn, the god of peace and plenty. The Babylonians and the Egyptians had similar festivals, and the Greeks had all this pantheon of gods themselves. It was a time when the sun went from decreasing to increasing and was widely celebrated as the time of the rebirth of the sun god. So in a stroke of genius, Pope Julius I chose December 25th as Jesus' birthday as a way of adopting and absorbing the commonly practiced winter solstice pagan traditions that were practiced at the time. And in the Catholic tradition, he created a special Christ Mass filled with pomp and ceremony, and hoped that if they mixed their Christian beliefs with the popular pagan holidays, the Christian message would be embraced and celebrated. It was what we would call today inspired marketing. And it was a huge success, and Christmas was born on December 25th. In the same way, the Advent season, the first 4 Sundays before Christmas, was created by the early church as a spiritual preparation for this experience of Christ's birth. It's a way of bringing our attention to the qualities that naturally bring forth the Christ presence in each one of us. Feelings of peace, of assurance, of conviction, and a knowing that all is truly well. The word Advent comes from the Latin adventus, which means coming or arrival. It's a celebration of the past and a hope for the future. The Advent wreath that you see here and the candles are a symbol and a representation of the season and the spiritual truth that it teaches. The wreath of evergreen boughs symbolizes completion, wholeness, and everlasting life, and was commonly used throughout Northern Europe during the winter solstice pagan traditions, representing the hope of spring, green, even in the midst of the darkest and the coldest time of the year. The candles were a church creation representing the main aspects of the spiritual journey. The 3 purple candles represent the qualities of royalty, the kingdom of God. The first candle is hope and the faith that comes from it. The second is peace, and the third is love. The qualities of being that we must experience and bring together in our life, usually in that order, before we can experience true joy, symbolized by the 4th rose candle, the candle of the heart energy. And it is from joy that the Christ comes forth, symbolized by the white candle, located in the center of the wreath, surrounded by wholeness, completion, and everlasting life. It's a perfect symbol and a perfect way of teaching it. And it's from these stories, told in their own way and in their own tradition, that tell of a greater love, a greater way of being, and offer each of us a way to experience that love and bring it forth through us and as us. It's the path of transformation, told in the ministry of Jesus, kept alive in the ceremonies of the church, and practiced today with Santa and the Christmas season. Today, we know that within each one of us is the light of the Christ life, and we are meant to bring that light into the world through us and as us. The traditions and the symbols of Christmas are important, but as I think back of all my Christmases, it's the feelings that I remember, the heart openings that I recall. It's the special way that I experienced the mix and the mystery and the inspiration and the truth, seeing and hearing it demonstrated, that encouraged me to go on and do the same. I want to close this morning with a poem that I think describes this process as well as any as I've ever heard. It's called the best gift. And it goes like this. On Christmas Eve, a young boy with light in his eyes looked deep into Santa's, to Santa's surprise. He said as he sat on Santa's broad knee, "I want your secret. Tell it to me." He leaned up and whispered in Santa's good ear, "How do you do it year after year? I want to know how as you travel about giving gifts here and there, you never run out. How is it, dear Santa, that in your pack of toys you have plenty for all the world's girls and boys? How is it that sack on the back of your sleigh is full, never empty, as you make your way from rooftop, to homes large and small, from nation to nation, reaching them all?" And Santa smiled kindly and said to the boy, "Don't ask me hard questions. Don't you want a toy?" But the child shook his head, and Santa could see that he needed the answer. "Now listen to me." He told the small boy with the light in his eyes, "My secret will make you sadder and wise. The truth is that my sack is magic inside. It holds millions of toys for my Christmas Eve ride. But though I do visit each girl and each boy, I don't always leave them a gaily wrapped toy. Some homes are hungry. Some homes are sad. Some homes are desperate. Some homes are bad. Some homes are broken, and children there grieve. Those homes I visit, but what should I leave? My sleigh is filled with the happiest stuff, but for homes where despair lives, toys aren't enough. So I tiptoe in, kiss each girl and boy, and pray with them that they'll be given the joy of the spirit of Christmas, the spirit that lives in the heart of the dear child who gets not, but gives. If only God hears me and answers my prayer. When I visit next year, what I will find there are homes filled with peace and with giving and love, and boys and girls gifted with light from above. It's a very hard task, my dear little brother, to give toys to some and give prayers for others. But the prayers are the best gifts indeed, for God has his own way of meeting each need. That's part of the answer. The rest, my dear youth, is that my sack is magic, and that is the truth. In my sack I carry on Christmas Eve day more love than a Santa could ever give away. The sack never empties of love or of joys, because inside it are prayers and hope, not just toys. The more I give, the fuller it seems, because giving is my way of fulfilling dreams. And do you know something? You've got a sack too. It's as magic as mine, and it's inside of you. It never gets empty. It's full from the start. It's the center of light and love. It's your heart. And if on this Christmas you want to help me, don't be so concerned with the gifts neath the tree. Open that sack called your heart and share your joy, your friendship, your wealth, your care. The light in the small boy's eyes was glowing. Thanks for your secret. I've got to be going. Wait, little boy, said Santa, don't go. Will you share? Will you help? Will you use what you know? And just for a moment, the small boy stood still, touched his heart with his small hand, and whispered, I will. So let's take a few moments and let all that settle. Bring out that handkerchief, wipe your nose. And just give thanks for this holiday season. For a time once a year when we can give gifts of love. We can reach into that heart space and do special things with a peacefulness. And our friends won't call us a wuss. We don't have to apologize. We can let a tear of joy flow down our cheeks and not feel nervous. It's a special time. And so as we embrace this season and we embrace all the stories, all the remembrances from Christmases gone by, of church services that told of this special time of year, opened our hearts, we know that we can go forward with a faith, with a love, with an assurance, with a conviction that God is here and that the eternal truths of the spiritual journey are alive and well and can be shared, can be experienced. And from this special time of year, we know that we can go forward each day for the rest of the year with that same love, with that same feeling of giving, with that same assurance of hope and conviction that there is a guiding, loving presence within each one of us. And for this, we are so grateful. Thank you, God. Well, this is a time in our service when we choose to give. And in this special time of the season, with hearts open, we simply know that these gifts will go forward to bless each and every person here through the services that we're able to hold, through the special meetings that we can take forth and share with our family and with our friends. So I invite you now to simply repeat with me our offering statement. Divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. I give in love, and I receive in abundance.
I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all that I am. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed.
And so we give thanks once again for these tithes and these offerings, so freely given from the heart. And we know that they go forward to bless each and every one of us, to bless this church, to bless this community, and through us, to bless the world. Thank you, God. So it is.
I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all that I am. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed.
Well, hello, everyone. For our announcements, I was off schedule a little bit here, but I'm back. Okay. Don't forget that 10:30 a.m. each Sunday, except for today, we will have Dancing with the Spirits, which uses gentle and easy movement to open our souls to the flow of God's energy. Also, be sure to tune in each week on Wednesdays at 4 p.m. on Facebook for our midweek Faith Lift podcast with Shannon and Rev Doug. Last week, Shannon had a great conversation with Eric Miller. So if you haven't viewed it, go back and take a look. It was really interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if you're like me, but I know I am, and I need a break from this holiday chaos. So we are having our spiritual connection get together. I know it's during the holidays, so that as long as Whole Foods is open, I'll be there or someone will be there. So if you need to come in to Spiritual Connection, come on Thursdays at 6 p.m. Whole Foods Manufacturers Road. We're going to be doing that from now through the end of the year and continuing on into next year. With Christmas Insights, if you plan to do any holiday shopping with Amazon, we encourage you to use our Amazon Smile Foundation. You go to smile.amazon.com and choose Unity of Chattanooga as your charity. And then proceeds or a small percentage will be given back to Unity, so it would be greatly appreciated. And those funds do add up. In the new year, Doug will be offering a membership orientation class on Zoom, and it will start January the 11th. There is a sign-up sheet in the back, along with the membership application form if you would like to become a member, and you can return that to me or any board member. Remember, there are prayer chaplains wearing the purple shawls and who are available if you would like personal prayer support after the services. Next week is the Next week is the Unity Holiday Potluck on December the 18th. Please plan to stay after the services for fellowship. Also, 2 dates to mark on your calendars. On Saturday, December the 24th, we'll be returning our Christmas candlelight service. Last time we had that was in 2016, so we're very excited and looking forward to everyone coming and participating in that. It will be here, Red Bank Community Center, 6:30. So that's 6:30, December the 24th on Saturday. We hope that you'll stay afterwards, and we'll have snacks and apple cider and all kinds of nice goodies. Please note that there will not be services on Christmas Day. That would be on Sunday. The second date is Sunday, January the 1st, New Year's Day. It will be our Burning Bowl service. This is a special New Year's tradition of reflection and release that you don't want to miss this. So I've attended it several years, and it's very inspirational and moving. So hope you all will attend. And online, if you want to attend this event, it's a fabulous event to come and watch us, come and participate in person. And last but not least, please join us for fellowship following the services. And let's stand and sing our prayer, our peace song.
together our prayer for protection. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. And just remember, Santa's coming, so better be good.